Now, what is wrong with the picture here on planet Earth? We have a small group of people trying to rule the world, and we have a large group of people putting up with it. And the reason is not what you would think it is. The game of this universe is very, very old. Say 330 centillion years, which is 105 with 33 zeros after it, which is a long time. And it's a game for all-powerful immortal beings, so it's not very friendly, or it's full of huge penalties and joys. And what we have here is like any game has playing pieces, like a chessboard, and there are some that have more power than others. Very famous philosophers said there are gods and makers of gods. I'm going to show you that in a few minutes. When you lose at the game, you're usually tricked into reducing your power. And what we have on this planet is broken pieces from the game. We're no longer in the game. We have been taken out of the game. So people are not whole here, and there's a horrific technology used in these games, and it's called electronic implantation. And with this machinery, you can actually torture the spirit itself. You can also implant, overwhelm the being and implant your ideas into him, and he thinks they're his ideas. And this is used to make a slave, or to make someone behave badly so he caves himself in with guilt, because basically everyone's a good guy deep down inside. So these machines are high frequency electronic machines of frequencies we're not able to produce on this planet yet, at power levels we're not able to produce yet. And you slam somebody right in the face with this, and it's possible to leave someone in these machines for a month, a year, 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, and after that they're pretty messed up. And almost everyone who's here has been through that kind of experience. And the people who are trying to dominate are dramatizing having been overwhelmed to that degree. They slide into the viewpoint of the person who dominated them, and they feel a need to dominate. I think that's called the Stockholm Syndrome here. So they're mentally ill from something that happened millions of years ago, and they dramatize it lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And the people who are not fighting back against this are people who know what happens when you fight back and you lose. You get thrown into one of these machines and tortured in that manner, and they don't want anything to do with that. They don't want to remember that. They don't want to think about that. They don't want to be asked to confront that ever again. So when you try to talk to them about cosmic consciousness or higher consciousness or revolution, they want to get away from you. Not either consciously or unconsciously. They just feel uncomfortable, and the uncomfortableness comes from a memory of this having been done to them, which they dare not look at, which is called can't have, must have. Must have the information around in case it ever happens again, but I can't look at it. It's too horrific. This is a mental condition which keeps a person from being peaceful. This is a very strange mental phenomenon, and it's based on the fact that spiritual beings are able to assume other people's personalities, steal, borrow, try on, complete other personalities. And if you're being tortured, it would obviously be better to be the person doing the torturing than the person receiving the torturing. So during the unconsciousness of being tortured, one assumes the viewpoint of the torturer and becomes that kind of person from then on out, because it's better to be that. Unless you arrive at a school that teaches higher consciousness, and you will become aware of these things having been done to you. Another aspect of this is you can't play the game of this universe as an all-powerful, all-knowing God, because you can't be messed with, and you know how it's going to turn out. So you have to drop down from know into not know to play the game. As soon as you drop down into not know, you are vulnerable to trickery. So at the far end of not know, you wind up on this planet not knowing anything, not knowing what you are, not knowing where you came from, not knowing about hyperdimensional physics, not knowing if there's life on other planets, not knowing if there's a God or not, or if there are aliens, or how your stomach works, even. So deep within your beingness, one gets to a point where you don't want to remember the mess you made last lifetime, so you start forgetting about your past life and start on a new life. A hidden problem with that is one always tucks away the goal one had in a lifetime. I never actually got to play the piano, or I never got to be king, or I never got to be prom queen or Trogo Auto egocratic ruler of the universe, because I had some problems pulling that off. So one keeps the goal and the problems in a little corner of your memory bank, and this is accumulated over a few billion years, becomes a thing called the goals problem mass. And similar to being tortured with these machines, if a situation comes up that re-stimulates one of these failures, it makes you uncomfortable. It makes you behave in a strange manner, can make you sick, can even kill you. And this is something you will never find out unless you go to a school of higher consciousness or take drugs. This is some of the stuff you run into, but it's pretty horrific stuff, and you could go insane looking at this stuff if you don't know what it is. And on a smaller scale, people carry around all the horrific things that have happened to them when they were children, in the same manner as I must have this information, but I can't look at it. So this is why people behave the way they do. To put it mildly, people have problems from this lifetime going on, unsolved. problems from past lifetimes going on unsolved, horrific tortures and losses in wars in the past many trillions of years, and you wind up here in a meat body, and this is or was a prison planet. It used to have a net around it, a scalar net that was full of programming to implant you with crazy making stuff if you tried to leave, or when you entered you got your goal to save the planet skewed in such a way as you wouldn't succeed. Back to my basic premises of the people who are living here are broken pieces from the larger game. Now, above human beings are at least 2 levels of consciousness, and actually 3. It would be angels, archangels, and the Supreme Being. Dan Winter, I just saw him talking about a level of beingness where one is swirling the gigantic clouds in the galaxy and making stars out of them and pulling things into shape. For me, that's a real thing, and it would probably be archangels arranging things in the universe to suit themselves. And these are game players creating stars and planets and building their own little races on planets and poking fun at each other. I have a book series by C.H. Lewis called Out of the Silent Planet, and I missed this. These creatures he calls Eldilla, and they are talked about in the book, but I missed the importance of that at the time. There's much more there about Mars, Earth, Venus, and the different scenarios there. Which is each planet is overseen by one of these creatures, and these are gods and makers of gods, whereas we are broken pieces down here. So this is the why. Some of the whys. I quote the common man who's drinking beer, watching sports on TV, and eating popcorn, and generally unreachable in any emotional or intellectual way. He's not any less than you. He's not interested in re-experiencing the great calamities that he's experienced in the past. So don't be too hard on him or them. This situation is being taken advantage of by the rulers of the world. They are well aware of this and try to keep this section of humanity in constant fear and doubt and worry and under pressure. That keeps him from thinking about being free. And it's part of the business of the prison planet of Earth. So another philosopher said, if you were looking for hell and found Earth, it would serve.